welcome to Tales from the Midpack. I'm your host, Rebecca Hunt. I'll be bringing you stories from everyday runners, experts, and not any race recaps for a while, but hopefully we've got some events on the horizon. Today we have Strava group, the Midpack Cartel, which, given that this podcast is Tales from the Midpack, I just obviously had to have a chat to. The founding members are Adam, Wishy, Matt and Stu, and today we have Stu, Matt and Adam with us. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, really, the reason I asked you guys on the podcast is because of the cool name of your group, but also to find out more about the Midpack Cartel philosophy and what it is you get up to. But before we do that, just help the listeners get to know you a bit. What do you guys do when you are not running?
I'll start. It's Matt. So I'm an engineer, so mechanical engineer. So I'm a manager of a group of engineers who look after cooking appliances, so Westinghouse Electrolytes cooking appliances, and run cost reduction and quality improvement projects. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay, Stu, I'll just continue the exciting career paths that we've taken. I'm in software development, so develop a lot of environmental software for large mining companies in particular, so it keeps me pretty busy. And about to go on a slightly different career path with my job and looking at innovation and design, so that's going to be pretty good fun.
And I'm Adam, and I'm a teacher and a Year 7 teacher of adolescent children, which is a lot of fun. And a bit like Stu, I'm on a bit of a different career path, looking at innovation in education and working on a few different developments at the moment with different universities.
Yeah. I should add, obviously, it sounds a bit different to the normal podcast. We are in a pub. We've got the beers. We've got... Want to go do the rounds?
Well, it was 1 kilo of hot wings. It's probably at 900 grams now.
You're a bit slower than normal too, by the way. That's a poor effort.
I'm trying to be polite.
Chowing down some fish and chips, very nice, and we've just had our first, what was that? Giza Pleaser, very nice beer.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And a chicken schnitzel.
Yeah, I got a snitty with gravy. Always really fun. All of you have kids. How do you go balancing all the running that you do with kid life?
Well, it's a lot different now. I mean, early days with when they were younger, it was obviously tagging with a wife. She'll go out and then I'll stay home, or I'll go out and she'll stay home. But now they're sort of near 16, 14 and 10, so they can tend to look after themselves for the hour or so we want to get out. So especially if the older ones are home, then I'm okay to go. So, yeah.
Similar, all three of us all have daughters, so I know it's something in the water or just something that naturally brought us to each other, but it's been pretty good. Mine are 18 and 16, so it makes it a lot easier. But along the journey, I think my wife knows it keeps me sane. She's just quite happy to push me out the door and let me run.
Do you ever get that, I think you need a run?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. It's like in my living room.
Yeah. I'm assuming you're running tonight, or I'm assuming you're running this weekend. Yeah, sure am. So, seems to like me at the house too, so I don't know what to read into that, but, you know.
And my daughters are 18, 15, and pretty much the same. They're able to be self-sufficient, a lot of homework and a lot of running in between work and stress relief.
Awesome. Now, how long have you guys been running? I started doing a bit of researching today, and I think it goes back quite a few years. And what got you into running in the first place?
Well, I reckon it was. I was trying to think of the year today. Actually, I think it's 2012. I was at my work would do physicals every year, so where they weigh you, do your blood pressure, and so on. And for the first time in my life, I topped 100 kilos. So 101 kilos, and they print it out and they give you a printout, and that was my turning point.
That was scary.
I thought, that's it. I can't do that anymore. And coincidentally, the same day, they sent out an email looking for runners to do Corporate Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And they sponsor. So without thinking, I just replied instantly and said, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then the next day, they sent out another email saying we need runners for City Bay. Same thing, without thinking, I said I'm in. And that was it. So I had no choice.
Yep.
I entered 2 events, So it's either I die on those events or I start training.
Yeah, what was your training window for City to Bay?
City to Bay was 6 weeks.
0 to 12, 6 weeks. Wow.
Zero, and it was an hour 20 City Bay, so it was a slow slog, but I got through.
Yep. Well done.
But Corporate Cup I loved. It's what really fired me up on running, because Corporate Cup's all about improvement. You get points, I don't know if you've done Corporate Cup before, but you get points for improved times.
Yeah.
So every week I went out, being a first-time runner, I naturally improved every week.
Yeah.
So I was getting these huge points coming in, and I really got the bug. Yeah. So that was effectively my beginning. Yeah.
It's a good origin story. But I'll see you 100 kilos and raise you another 15. So my turning point, I guess, was just turned 30, had second daughter. I think there's a photo of me with both of them on my lap back in Mum and Dad's house in Port Pirie. It looked like I'd eaten a third child. So I thought I was pretty unhealthy and thought I better do something about it. Started with the dietitian and started doing some exercise. I think it took me probably 6 months before I could actually run like a 5K. So it took a long time. There's a fair few forces going through your body when you're that heavy.
Yeah, but it sounds like you did it properly. So a lot of people start that and then just hurt themselves and give up.
Oh, the best thing I ever read was check your ego at the door. And you just, all I did was I'll go for a walk for 20 minutes out, 20 minutes back. And we actually went for a run before tonight as well, before our meal, because that's the proper way we do it. It's pretty much the same sort of thing. That took me back 20 minutes out, 20 minutes back. And so after a while I'd go, look, I'd run to this light post, and I think that's where you hear a lot of people just go, look, I'm just going to head out the door and just bang, I'm running.
Yeah.
And it's not sustainable. So I started doing that. Near our place is the Linton Trails and Randall Park.
Yep.
And I was walking past Randall Park once and I thought, I wonder what the trails are like. So I went in there and I think a little bit after that, Adam then introduced me to places like Belair and a few other places. And then my love for trails, and I'm a bit of a tech head as well, so I like maps and stuff. So I just love to be out there designing new ways to get around these places, and so that's where it all started for me.
Awesome. Wow.
My journey is probably a lot longer than these guys. I've been running since I was about 13 years of age.
Wow.
And used to run in a school competition that was called the Oakbank to Morialta 100 kilometre relay race.
Yep.
And we would do a 20 kilometre leg each. So at around about 14 years of age, I'd be able to run 20 kilometres in one day, but you do 5 kilometre legs. So that's how I got into that, and pretty much did that through high school. Used to train with a marathon runner who was sponsored. His name is Bradley Reynolds. And he was a sub 3-hour marathon runner at the age of 9. And so there was certainly a lot of running pedigree where I was growing up. And entered the City to Bay around about 15 years of age, and did that in about 47 minutes. And
a bit different to my first one.
Adam's on the edge of the Midpack, by the way.
Honorary member,
because you like him so much.
So it was always in my blood, but it sort of was taken out when you get married and you end up living a different life, and you do put on weight, and you suddenly realise that there was a part of you that was missing, and you end up, through a variety of different reasons, you come back to that actual original part of who you are. And I suppose probably that part for myself and Stu, how we got into trail running was back in 2007 I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4, and nearly died. I was in intensive care through having acute liver failure, and part of my rehab was to actually run 50 kilometres, which was quite a big achievement because at that time I couldn't actually walk across the road. So setting small goals and having friends on board, and Stuart and I, we raised some money for a cancer centre and spent a lot of time actually outside running on the trails, learning a lot about each other and food and how we should tackle this new thing called trail running. And so we entered the Oxford 100, but we did the 50 kilometre, and it
took us over 9 hours.
It took us over 9 hours, and it's partly because it taught us a number of lessons along the way at around about 36 kilometres.
I always learn these the hard way though.
And that makes sure they stick in your head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. I remember those.
At 36 kilometres, I think we were saying, Stu, I think you need to eat. And
why's the car moving? It's not moving. I know.
Yeah.
Gone.
So in the end, we've been pretty much running since I have been running pretty consistently since 2007, and cycling in the off seasons and so forth. But generally nothing pushing anything too hard. Just out there for the enjoyment of the trails, and I'm an avid bushwalker as well, so enjoy just being out in nature and having time in my own head.
Sounds like we all use it to clear our heads a bit. A lot. Now, the description of the Midpack Cartel mentions beers and burgers. Beers get a lot of mentions, actually, looking through it. And it's mentioned in the same sentence as bond and camaraderie. So how important are beers and burgers to the Midpack Cartel?
And a kilo of wings as well. Demolishing that plate. It's a pretty impressive effort.
But to be honest, we probably don't do the beer and burgers enough. Probably every now, maybe once every month or so, we tend to do it. Blair gets a good run. But otherwise, a lot of beers after the runs, especially during summer. We'll get back to the car park and you hear a subtle little clink of a bottle, and it'd be Stu or Adam or someone else will go, "Oh, you didn't," and beers will pop up and away we'll go. So
another one of our non-founding members is John. So John's had a bit of a hiatus with the whole lockdown.
Oh yeah.
And so he's been back out on the trails with me last week, and so I rewarded him about a third run for the week with that little clank. The funny thing was, as I said, "Do you want a beer?" He goes, "Oh, only if you've got a spare one." Yeah. I said, "What sort of arsehole would it be? I can bring one beer out." I was like, "What do you think of me, mate?" So there is always the surprise beer that comes out for sure. So, but I think it's there's a lot of people in the trail running community, and you sort of know each other through the running, but not too well. But we know each other so well outside of running, and so we tend to, and it's just something we love doing on the runs. It's amazing sometimes we can go from be out there for a 3-hour run and then still have a barbecue after and still find things people just how do you know what to talk about? It's like I don't know, you know each other so well, so it's just.
Do you get that a lot? Because I get that a lot. What do you talk about? What do you think about? Is a common question for when I hear about the length of your runs.
Depends. Stages, right? So pretty chatty early, less chatty in the middle, and let's just get this shit done. I think we had one of those runs the other week. I think you might have said, it's been pretty quiet.
We hadn't spoken a word for an hour, I reckon. At least an hour.
Wow. In the pain cave.
Absolutely, the pain cave.
I think the weather. It was my fault again for commenting on the weather mid-run. Going, I know it's been cold, but it's been pretty nice. And then the wind came in, the rain came in, and the misery just started. So it was good fun. It always is.
The irony is, Stu actually got me into trail running over a beer. We met through mutual friends. Through our wives.
Beers, that's generous.
Might have been 1 or 2 or 10. And I was a road runner back then. Solely a road runner.
Come to the dark side.
And she said, I run trails. I said, I've never done that before, sounds interesting. And where do you run? And he goes, Belair, blah, blah, blah. Shepherd's Hill, and I grew up around Shepherd's Hill. I went, that sounds like a great place to run. He goes, all right, Wednesday night, bring your sneakers, 7K run, I'll introduce you to it. Best 7K of my life. Switched instantly. Like, absolutely converted from that moment on. Still do a little bit of road, but...
So this is like the ultimate pyramid scheme. So Adam introduced me to the trails, I introduced Matt to the trails. So
We've introduced a number of people throughout the years.
spreading the word.
And now it's certainly one of the most popular sports at my
it's
workplace.
exploding.
Yeah. So, but I think probably the big thing for, and speaking from a male perspective, that males don't generally talk to each other. They don't talk about life and debrief and so forth. And trail running is one of the great opportunities to actually do that, where you can actually look forward. You don't have to look at somebody in the face.
No, you don't.
And
you're there for a really long time.
You were there for a really long time. There's no hiding. And so, at each stage through a run or through an ultra or through a race, we all suffer at different levels. And ultimately we can see that and help each other through that. And that in itself causes a greater bond or mateship. And, if we look at it, running is the vehicle that we use to generate a stronger bond, and that's, got to be a bonus.
And depending on how your event goes, it can really strip you down to your base, who you are.
Who you are, yeah. Absolutely.
And you can't hide it in those moments.
No.
Stu and I find training runs very cathartic, just to release. You send a message like, can't wait for the run, got lots to talk about. It's just things like that, work, life, whatever. Just to get it out there so you don't get it out in areas where you shouldn't. It's very effective that way.
The description of the cartel also says, if you're anywhere near the podium, the club probably isn't for you. A running club for those of us that aren't too fast, aren't too slow, and some would say just right. Very Goldilocks. So what's just right in your books?
Look, and it's funny how you follow a lot of people on Facebook and the like, and they're all elites, and there's a lot of stuff that's written about that and the like. And this is what actually, as soon as when we discovered your podcast was when Barry talked about it. And funny story with Barry, by the way. And like I said, often we don't do a lot of races, but you know how you sort of see people's name pop up on Facebook a lot, right? So often people don't know we exist, but don't know who we are. And we almost like it that way. And so for a long time, Barry couldn't quite tell us apart because we're both tall, bigger runners. And so poor Barry would often, and there was a run where Matt went to one of the Kathmandu Solomon runs, and I wasn't there because we're actually often not apart at these runs either. And thought Matt was me. So the whole run it was like, Stu can do this, and so it gets a bit awkward with Barry. But when he mentioned about the Tales from the Midpack, it's like, that's great because that resonates with 80%. Well, the Midpack, so I'm sure statistically it's not 80%, but you know what I mean. That it does.
You're not going to win. You're not going to come last.
No.
You're just in that area where you just got to finish.
Yeah. But you're not completely injured or completely unfit. You can actually feel a bit proud of what you've been able to do. And yet there's no pride, no ego.
No. That's the real beauty of it. And I guess because Adam has done a lot of riding as well, and he sort of says that's the same with sort of the mountain bike versus the road racing, where it's the same with the road runners versus the trail runners. There's a different psyche and there's a different way that it's very much a community thing. I think that's why we like doing that sort of sport together, because that's all sort of how we're built. And we do like the community as well. And it's just that way to connect and get out there. It's awesome. Makes you super grumpy when you're injured.
So what do you think your running would lose if you were focused on getting faster?
I think for me, I don't think I'd be running as much because I'll get injured. I reckon. But I have gone through periods where I was running, a 50-minute City Bay, hour 35 half marathon. I was getting reasonably quick, but then that turned pretty quick when I got basically both my knees got injured. One was tendonitis, one was a torn cartilage. So surgery helped with that and slowed me right back down again, which has brought me back to the level I probably should be at my age, height, weight, all those things that slow you down. So for me, I think it'll probably be counterintuitive if I went faster. I don't think it's something I could maintain at all.
I think it'd almost feel too much like hard work or too much like training. For mine, and I think the other guys are the same, we don't have too much of a plan when it comes to that. We often run by feel, and sure we do analyse it a bit and we work out the kilometres and that sort of stuff, but apart from that it's a bit by feel. But having said that, there's nothing like bombing down Queen's Tube in Bel Air, flat chat, and it's just the best feeling. It's flying, and that, I think there's sometimes, and you do like the grind and you do like the trails, but sometimes when you get that ultimate feeling and you're just letting it all loose, it's sensational.
I've got Sticks and Stones in Sturt Gorge for me that get that exact same feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
It's brilliant.
My take on it is every runner has a moment, I think, when they are running, they refer to it as, I refer to it as Zen running. Zen running in the sense of it almost feels effortless, but you're running quickly and you can feel that you're moving through this space and it's effortless, but it's quick at the same time, and that is every runner gets a moment like that. And sometimes you might feel it for 20 seconds, you might feel it for 1 minute, you might feel it for 2 minutes, but it's that keeps me going, wanting to run a little bit quicker, a little bit more focusing, trying to get that Zen running to the point where you feel like it's one of the most primal activities we can actually do and actually just run. So
you chase that moment with just regular training rather than I'm going to be fast and I'm going to
just regular
find that. It just comes to you from the work that you do.
That's right, and it's not from counting numbers and...
But I reckon you can pick small pockets of trail that have it.
Absolutely.
And there's one so I reckon there's two in particular. There's one in Randall Park on the other side. There's a little rise and you come down and it just does this like this nice sort of flow. I reckon it's about 30 metres long. And there's another one I reckon in Sheps that does the same. When you bomb down from up the top and you know it's coming, and you know every time you get it, there's just something about the angle of it, the actual surface itself when you hit this spot, and it's just like, wow, it's like a
there's three spots in Bel Air for me that run like that, and that's alongside the lake through the part we were going to run tonight.
Sorry, that was unlike me.
When you were saying that, I was thinking of that spot. So that for me in a lot of ways is one of those moments where you could be anywhere in the world. And you know, running's one of those mindfulness tasks. Like you absolutely have to be present in that moment, because if you're not, you get tripped up.
Your face.
That's right. And so, and it is one of those. You know, it's quite philosophical about it, but in the end, it's probably the thing that I chase. And there are moments, like I said, it might last for 30 seconds. It might last for a minute.
I'm just taking a photo of the demolished wings. There we go. 1 kilo done.
There's at least half a kilo of bones in there. I promise you.
I think we found our photo for the podcast.
But to sort of counteract what I was saying, I religiously had one road run a week where I'd go reasonably quick. And I think that ultimately did help my running because it gave a different... It's almost... We don't tend to do a lot of variations in the run. It might be a hillier one, it might be a flatter one, but the pace doesn't seem to vary too much. So I found that one road run a week at 4 something pace seemed to really help me with my trail running. They sort of helped each other.
But we do have some routes through Bel Air where we've got one called the Gut Run and the other one's called the Redliner. So they're ones that are relatively flat. Brown Hill Creek's good for that. 4K up, 4K back, slight climb up, smash it home. So you can find ones that lend itself to it, but
Yeah.
it is good fun. Probably should do more of that stuff.
I found an image online, one of those ones that has like a saying over it. I can't actually remember where I found it, like on one of your Facebook pages or on the Strava or whatever, but it says, race day is sacred. We believe in competition and the meritocracy of racing, not because winning and losing are particularly important, but because competition sends us on an innately human journey. The profound physical and mental demands of training and racing lead to a richer and more sensitive and thrilling life. They make us better human beings. So I know that you guys have been in quite a few events, and what do you get out of participating in events, and how does that affect your running and your training, and what do you gain from them?
I find an event helps me train. If I train without an event, I find it hard to get motivated. But the event itself, the thing that I love most about it, I think it's similar to most of the guys, is all the people you speak to. And in this Midpack, we call it, there's tons of people you can speak to, because you're either passing someone slightly faster or they're passing you slightly faster, and you have a chat as you go. You might run a kilometre with them, you might run 5, you might over the whole day run the whole event with them. We've had people like that where you're literally passing to and from the whole 56k or whatever it is. So I get a lot from that. The actual doing the race itself, that finish line feeling, I love as well. And it's, you get to the end, you get the rush. We debrief for days. We go to the pub, we celebrate, we do the whole lot. But then it's the come down afterwards. It's the I don't even know what you call it.
It's blues. It's 3-day
blues. A week after, it's like, now what?
Apparently it's really normal.
Yeah. It's all worth it. All worth it for that.
Some are a bit different, and you'll be able to tell that if you walk into our houses. So you'll struggle to ever find any one of my medals for finishing a race. I'm a tuck them in the drawer, that sort of stuff. Yeah. And yours are hanging on.
Yeah, I got them up.
You got them everywhere.
Up on a hook on the wall.
Yep, mine are on the rack right by the front door.
Yeah. But I'm a sort of classic. Yeah, did it, put it in the thing.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, like we don't, even though we've done, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 ultras, and well, my first race ever when I started running was the old Pioneer Women's Trail, 25k, and then my second race ever was the 50k I did with Adam. So I didn't even go through a 5k or anything like that.
Wow.
I just went straight for it.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll do 1 or 2 a year. That's about it. Because I just, once again, it's some part of me being a tight-ass Dutchman also is that I don't want to pay for us to something where I could just run anyway.
Yeah.
I think the ultras are great because the logistics of it are very difficult, and the fact you can set yourself that big challenge and that sort of thing. Yeah. So, because I really love getting into single track, and often a lot of the big events don't get into that because it's too logistically hard to do it.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I might do my own the day before, and I'll do this part and that sort of stuff as well. So maybe I'm just a bit of a trail snob or something like that. But I'm with Matt though. There is that, having said all that, once you're in the race, suddenly something clicks in.
It's a different feeling.
It is different.
Yeah. And suddenly you're like, oh yeah, and then you see someone who, and you always have your nemesis in a race, right?
Yes.
There's always somebody who you're yo-yoing the whole way, and you might not even say a word to each other the whole day. God damn it, I'm taking you down.
At the end of an event, I've gone up and thanked someone for their motivation, and it's like, what? I had to explain, like, I've been chasing your bike shorts all day. Yeah.
So it's
that's great.
So yeah, it does definitely get the things going. Yeah, for sure, it's good.
I think I'm probably more internally competitive. Like I will set targets for myself. When I was thinking about it after you guys were talking, I was like, yeah, I don't count numbers, but I do. I know roughly within 3 minutes of what time I'm going to finish. If I fall out of that 3-minute period, I'm disappointed with myself. And generally I can sort of work with that. And, it's not just, I think it's just having the challenge. It's the challenge.
It's a dangling carrot.
But at the same time, some of my best running moments, I had a running moment at the start of this year. I ran from Mount Hotham to Falls Creek, and it's a non-race event. I finished a 3-day bushwalk. Had to go back and collect my car, so I pulled the short straw, and
You offered to pull. You only had short straws in the hand.
short straws in the hand. And knowing that, I'd already just passed this location, it took me 3 days to walk. You can't carry that much water. You had to fill up in streams. You're isolated. Weather's coming in. You've got to do it within a certain time period because you don't want to get caught out on a plateau. And so going through those logistics, that I found was probably one of the most satisfying running moments I've ever had. And then actually executing, and then getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because you know that it's going to be hot at certain times. You've got certain checkpoints you've got to get to, and because if you break an ankle out there, it's a helicopter ride home. And so I had this moment when I was coming out of this saddle, and it's a big climb out, and I remember the previous days climbing into this saddle thinking, I'm going to have to run out of this thing. And I came out onto the top of this plateau in the Victorian Alpine area, just myself, and around about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was surrounded by these wild horses, and it was just me and the horses. That was it. It was like, take some photos and just be in that moment. And I continued, obviously, running on after about 10 minutes of watching the horses. But for me to actually then know that I had to get back to the car at a certain time and so forth, it still had that competitiveness in me, but there was nobody else around. And for me, that's probably today one of the richest experiences I've ever had running. We dreamt about, I've done part of running up to Major Mitchell's Plateau in Grampians, and that was by myself. But knowing that you're in an isolated...
Keep talking about it.
We want to do it in 5 or 6 hours where we can do a 3-day walk in that period. But so there's... I look at it now and I probably lean towards those epic, non-competitive, but competitive.
That's funny. My next question was about, you've answered this one already, what's your most epic experience? And that was after seeing your Facebook profile shot of all your bibs all together. You were telling how many kilometres that represents and how all the stories behind that. And so what's your most epic adventures?
Probably for a couple of different reasons. So from a personal point of view, my first event was Yurrebilla. First ultra was Yurrebilla, and did it in 8 hours, 1 minute, I think it was. And then the next year we went back and did it again, and the training block was so much better, but that year was just horrendous weather. It was 30 plus degrees, 100 kilometre hour northerlies. Chute dropped, unfortunately, at 33k.
I've still got out of horse nails there.
And I finished it in 8 hours 6. And that was...
Good memory.
I know all my times. And that was burning me going up. I wanted to get sub 8. So the group of us had a really strong plan to train for a quicker time. Unfortunately, Stu got injured for that event, close to the event, but
that one was 3 weeks before.
And I managed...
I saw you were a non-starter for one.
I had a DNS 3 weeks beforehand. The next year, a DNS 3 days beforehand. Anyway, keep going.
So that was the first ultra I'd ever done by myself. Because I'd never done one. I'm directionally challenged. So even though I'd done Yurrebilla twice, I was absolutely panicking, not knowing where to go. But that day, I found I'd hit a mark and go. You talk about the effortless. Someone talked about the effortless run.
Zen running.
I hit a mark and I went, geez, that's okay. I'm well under where I should be. That's all right. Feeling good. Hit another mark. And then I came through Cleveland and I saw these guys in Cleveland and they're going, you're way under where you should be. I said, but I'm feeling fine. Like and that was the year they had the massive weather storm and had to reroute it and put the sting in the tail, they called it. I put 14 Ks, I think it's 1,000 metres of vert in the last 14 K. And I remember getting to that area going, don't be complacent because you're well under time, but you've got this massive climb to go. I remember getting up to, I think it was a 3K bomb down 4, and I was sitting at 6 hours 30 something. I went, I'm going to break 7 hours. And it's just like full wave of emotion. Like, oh my God, this is going to, and yeah, 6:51. And so personally, that was my favourite from a personal point of view. But otherwise, probably my first Yurrebilla was my favourite.
Yeah.
Just from doing one. Like that was, I think I came off, no, we got a year's training in that. I think we got about a 12-month training in that from the time I met you. But yeah, I'd say that would be my favourite. Yeah.
How about you, Stu? What's your most epic?
We've done a few epic things, and like Adam said, with the actual, we've done a few overnight hikes, 2-night hikes in the Grampians and stuff like that. So everything on your back. That's not trail running per se, but to be able to hike for hours, pull the pack off, and have literally everything that you need in that pack, set up your tent, all those sort of things is pretty cool. And so we were up, we did the Razorback Ridge and Mount Bogong, which is a 1 kilometre climb over 5K, 7K.
5.
Don't recommend that with a 20 odd kilo pack in your back. I'd just come off of Yurrebilla too. I thought I was pretty fit, but that hurt.
Yeah.
I'm a bit with Adam. I think sometimes like the organised races are good. Like I think for me, the North Face 50, we did the UTA before it became the UTA.
Yeah.
We drove, myself and Matt and another good running mate of ours, Brendan, drove all the way over to Katoomba.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good drive for the 50K, and that was just epic. It was just the community was just great. But just some of the ones you execute by yourself or outside of a comp have been good. Like one I did near Membray Creek, probably shouldn't say this, but it's close to Mount Cavan, followed with the Hidden Gorge Loop. It was pretty awesome. But actually one recently I did, I went up a few weeks ago, went back to Port Pirie for a boys' weekend with some mates I grew up with. But the few of us went to Melrose first. And so on Friday, and it was so good. If you know Melrose, there's a monument under Mount Remarkable.
Yeah.
So the other two were mountain biking and I was running. So they literally just pushed me out the car. It was a bit cold, a bit rainy, and just in my head was going, all right, because I've done Mount Remarkable before, so I don't really need to stop and look at smell the roses. And so it was a 52-minute climb, just constant climb if you've done it before, and it's not steep, but it just doesn't relent, the whole thing. And that for me is I did the whole thing just running really nicely. It was that flow thing. And then once I got up the top, took care of a few things, which I wouldn't recommend going to the top of Mount Remarkable for a while. That's so bad.
It's funny that we all know what you're talking about. Even before you...
It's like a rite of passage story. It's just horrendous. But the last time I've been up there, they didn't have the South Trail.
Yeah.
And so I thought, because it's slightly longer, but I wanted to experience that on the downhill.
Yeah.
And just smashed it downhill. And it was rocky, it was wet, it was cold, but it was just epic. And so I didn't see a single soul. Hour and a half, up and down, felt like I was the only person on the mountain, which feels great. And then to finish it off, after you finish that, there's the gate where you come back in near the monument. And I remember thinking, I haven't looked at my watch for a long time. And I'm literally 20 metres before I press stop. I've looked down and rolled my ankle. Literally swore very loudly, got up, took 2 more paces, hit stop. I was that close. And it's just, because I had this grand plan of, running like a hero into the main street of Melrose to meet the boys. Had just been just limping along, going, But that was pretty epic. That was just one of those days out where it's just like everything aligns and it was just beautiful. It was just awesome.
Till the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been no events lately. We'll talk about how cool it is to get out. Stu, I have seen, I think it was in your Facebook, that you've discovered the That's What I Reckon.
Yeah,
Chili
I love
con carne.
That's What I Reckon.
Yeah, I love them too.
He's the best.
Yeah. So we've all had our coronavirus discoveries, but have you gotten into any virtual racing? There's been a lot.
No,
It's avoided that bandwagon?
Yeah, we've done, and the irony is we do a lot of Belair running.
Yeah.
I know there's a short and long course in Belair, but for some...
I can't bring myself to do it. I don't know
for some
what
reason
it
we
is.
just don't do it. I don't know why.
It's too mainstream, man.
But the irony is, during the corona break, we both realised we've both been training as much, if not more, than we are for an ultra.
Yep.
And that's what's prompted us to think about a longer event. It's like, well, we're doing this reasonably effortlessly without even knowing about it. So take advantage.
And maybe, because I guess there has been a lot of stress in the community and stuff, but for me, I've almost felt a bit the opposite. I've been able to work from home, it's pretty comfortable. I know a lot of people are suffering through it as well, but it just goes to show the wide gamut of experiences people are having through this time, and I've actually found it pretty cruising. I think we haven't, and you don't have really any restrictions anymore on when you can run, because the kids didn't have any school things or sport or anything. Weekends are wide open. Any night it's like, you up for a run? Yep, cool, let's do it. Yep. And so you can you synchronise, and there's no stress, and it was it's been pretty sweet.
Yeah, our lives have definitely been freer time-wise.
Oh, yeah.
So I think a lot of the stuff I've got after this is asking about Yurrebilla, which we've already talked about a fair bit. One thing I did love was the very deep and profound mantra that you created for last year with the hashtag get the cartel to the start line. There was some motivation. It said, the next time you feel like quitting, find a way not to somehow.
Yeah.
So you guys are all about philosophy.
Yeah, very philosophical.
Did you end up getting the t-shirts?
No, we haven't
There's
yet.
one with the sad face and the tear.
Yeah, we've got the designs, and it's basically crying skulls, which I think probably summarises us really well.
But you're trying to motivate each other, and obviously you and Stu went in, Adam, you went in, 6 hours 20. John, Scott, Jan, Rachel did the 28.
Yeah.
So you got quite a few of the crew in, which is really good.
We had a uniform.
I noticed you guys had matching calf sleeves, t-shirt, everything. We crossed the line together. It's very sweet.
The cartel did have a red top. We were going to get it emblazoned. Just never got around to it.
Because we're so midpack and average, we just didn't quite get around it. But I think that's why often Matt and I end up wearing similar stuff, and that's why Barry gets us confused all the time. But because going into that, I had the DNF in the really hot year. So and that was one of those, like you said, you sort of got seen by the nurse after you'd had the meltdown. I'd managed to climb out of Horsenell. Adam wasn't running it, but he joined us before Horsenell, and you can get through Horse. And I'm like, seriously, I'm not feeling great. Before I actually started Yurrebilla, I'd actually had tests around because my breathing wasn't right, and I had tests and all this sort of stuff. And I look back on it, I think it was actually anxiety through life and everything else, and it really weighed on me. And so I got to the end of Horsenell, and I was sort of propping myself up somehow, and the course nurse happened to be there, and you're right, you don't look so good. Yeah, I'm not great. So pulled out. I think after that, did we do the North Face after that? Because that was for my 40th.
Yeah,
right?
we had a year off Yurrebilla, then went to North Face in May.
So I think we did actually persecute ourselves the year after the
Is that
DNF.
the one where you guys joked about they didn't even check your mandatory gear after having to carry it all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we had these new D-packs just stuffed full of crap, and you're just like...
About 15 litres into an 8-litre pack.
Yeah. So we did... Oh, that's right, we volunteered at Yurrebilla the year after that. So we did
McGilliott's.
Yeah, so we did McGilliott's. The thing that I loved about the North Face, and it didn't seem to do too much here, is that you're running along and someone goes, "Come on, Stuart," and I'm like, how does someone know who I am? Of course, you're just reading your bib, right? But it didn't seem to do it much here. So when we manned McGilliott's, because it was before the switchbacks were there, and so people are coming up that horrible old climb, but it's dead, so you can read the bibs. And so we were just yelling out names and all this sort of stuff. And it was like, what the hell's going on? Yeah. So we put a bit of fun into it that way.
It was a fun day. I almost had that much fun doing it, volunteering as running it. It was a really good day.
Because I think we had our daughters there as well, and they loved it. So I did that, and then as we mentioned earlier, great block of training. 3 weeks before Yurrebilla, tore a calf. then next time I trained for it, a really good block of training 3 days before Yurrebilla, the last run. I had actually heard it a little bit the week before, and it was one of those ride or die moments, and bang, just snapped 500 metres into a run, just clearly just went ping. So that was pretty bad, and I had a pretty long, lengthy pity party about that one.
Yeah,
but then
that was a good one.
A few life things happened, and sort of out of loss came a bit of a wake-up call to start thinking about. And there's a guy who does a website called Semi-Red, a guy called Brendan Leonard.
No.
He actually did, I think, the best running video ever called How to Run 100 Miles.
Yeah, if you haven't
So
seen
him and a
it, it's a
mate.
ripper.
Alright.
So they are distinctly Midpack.
Anything we mention, I link in the show notes. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll put
So
them.
it's probably the best running video I've ever seen. They are Midpack to the nth degree.
But there's so
Define
many
Midpack.
life stories
And
involved.
it's inspiring. And Brendan himself is a former addict. He's actually a very funny guy. Does a lot of running. He's often said he hates running, but he loves running. And he's got this really good website, and he does a lot of like a lot of diagrams and stuff. So I'd really recommend having a look at it. A lot of good philosophy, really simple stuff. And one of the things in there was like, we always worry about and get anxiety because he's always racked with anxiety. He's one of these guys, and about things we can't do. And so we've made excuses. You know, I'm 6'1", I'm 92 kilos. There's many reasons why I shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. I'm too big, it's too hard on the joints, all this sort of stuff. He said, just think about what if you could actually do it? What if it works?
Yeah.
What if you actually have the day out? What if you actually get through it? And what's the worst thing that could happen if it doesn't? So suddenly it was like, you know, a few other things happened in life last year, and it was like, all right, Matt, want to do Yurrebilla? He's like, are you serious? And so similar again this year is like, we're doing this stuff and said, why don't we just give Heysen a nudge? We've never done 100, I've always talked about it, so why not? Let's have a crack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, do it. I mean, that's always my last question is, you know, what events do you have lined up? But it sounds like, well, A, there's not many on the calendar anyway, but B, Heysen. Heysen's the go.
Yeah, we're all in Heysen, aren't we? Yep.
Heysen,
You're in, yeah.
Adam, I think
Yeah.
you just got told you're in.
Yeah. Yep, no, I'm in for a belt
Yarns in.
buckle.
And funny, so John...
16 now?
16 hours, yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I reckon you do faster.
yeah, I reckon you go.
I went in thinking, I had no idea. I could do 18 hours, I hope, and then secretly I was thinking 17, but I didn't dare say it to anyone, and I got 16 and a half.
Yeah.
So if I get, you're faster than me.
Yeah, no, I think it would be good to have the camaraderie throughout the day, and then you just sort of have people meet you.
You know, it's not going to be with us, right?
Yeah, if you're with us having a bad day.
Yeah, one of the guys
No offence.
I run with.
You run with the yarn.
Yeah, he goes, oh yeah, I reckon we can do this in 12. So
There you go, see?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, looking at your Yurrebilla time, I don't know, it's somewhere between 14 15.
And that was off not
Throwing
much
that out
training,
there.
just quietly as well. So,
there you go.
but all jokes
Yeah,
aside,
that
Adam
was
is the
normal.
most smoothest, efficient runner, and it's a thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see, except for the T-Rex arms.
Alright, but 105k is on your calendar.
Yeah,
Use Yurrebilla as a training run this year, maybe.
Yeah.
That's the theory.
I've heard it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And don't forget you got to do Yurrebilla 2 weeks before
2 weeks
Yurrebilla.
before, at night.
That's
That's the way it
hardcore.
goes.
That should be standard training by then, 50Ks every weekend.
Yep.
I think I'd love to do the UTA 100.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Doing the 50, I'd love to go back, but I'd also love to do the Wonderland run as well.
yeah, Wonderland, because we've done the walk
Yeah.
and we know the terrain. I went last year or the year before and just did one of my own runs. One of the best runs I've done is a 25-kilometre run through the Wonderland area through the Grampians, and then another one called Biggs Bluff, and that's outside of the Grampians. Once again, you're totally alone and isolated, but yeah, those types of events would be great. UTMB. But I'd like to do it with a group of guys.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
But do it over 3 days.
Okay.
And then
Awesome, I'm not a fan.
But not
sleep
very
Because you
overnight.
can go from hut to hut.
Yeah.
And when we say hut, they're like chalets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you take a lightweight sleeping bag and food
Sounds good.
provisions. Run. too many photos to take. Yeah.
And yeah, for me, ultimately, like I said to you on the run today, I'd like to do a road marathon. Probably not this year because of Heysen training, but one day, tick it off, just to say I've done it.
It's one of those things, isn't it, that we, like you're saying before, in this sport we tend to jump past what people see as the typical stepping stones.
Yep.
Just kind of, I'll just go here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's no path. There's no magical formula. There's just you got to find what works, and guess what? As soon as you find what works, it changes.
Yeah, that's right.
Got it written down somewhere. There's something about one of you described trail running as a sport for life. Like it's, the events are great, but it's a sport for life. And
that is, and that's my favourite response to someone goes, "What are you training for? Life."
Yeah.
As simple as that. It's like, I don't really have to have like Matt said, it is good to have that carrot where you can go towards. But for me, it's just I'd love it. It's like breathing, really. It's just it keeps us sane. And you look at what we do. If you're not training for something, you're out there 3-4 times a week, you're running long distances, and it doesn't seem to have rhyme or reason, but it's so many things that we just let it out.
And that's a reason in itself.
Yeah.
I say to people all the time, you don't want to know Matt who doesn't run, because it's not a very pleasant person. During injuries or whatever, and your periods of time where you're off, it's a different psyche. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time, for the run this evening, and the beer, and it's been really great.
Oh, thank you.
So good luck with your Heysen attempt.
We'll see you out there.
Not attempt, your completion.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll be out there. And my plan is to actually stay for the campfire this year.
Yeah.
So that's my sole plan.
That used to be our goals at finishing an ultra were to be able to have beers after.
Yes.
Because the first couple I did, I was that badly just destroyed. Couldn't even think about it. But when we did the Hubert, the first
the 85k.
it was meant to be a 50 miler, but we didn't get to St Mary's in time, so we missed the cut-off, and we did 70k's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did about 50 Ks, which was the 35K one.
I think
I was going to ask, did you guys get lost in the Flinders Air? Because I think some people on the initial Huberts got lost a lot.
I did. In the first year, that's the only time we did it, and I was geographically embarrassed by about 8 kilometres, 9 kilometres, I think.
And that's rare for you too.
It is very rare.
We didn't get
It was more
lost.
pride than anything that got me lost.
I don't think we ever went off track, but we did have pockets where it took 15 minutes to find where we needed to go.
Yeah.
Probably 2 or 3 times, I reckon.
Yeah. We get
Especially that one looking for the...
If I'm there and we get lost, and then there's a problem. But there was one where it did that.
Yeah,
that's the one that I got lost.
That took us a good...
That was after you go through that gorge. And you're running through the gorge, and then suddenly you had to take this deviation to the left. I went straight.
Yeah, I think we did too. We got to an area where we didn't recognise on the app.
I wasn't using an app. I was using a little piece of paper and
the printed notes.
Printed notes, and they got all soggy.
We had backcountry or whatever it's called.
I did have the technology, but it actually felt pretty cool because we were like pioneers that year. First one out. I was actually number 1 too.
Yeah,
I got the number 1 bib.
You were too.
And I'm like, that's embarrassing because I'm just going to get destroyed. I'm not. Anyway, it was good fun though. Number 1. I think officially I came last.
Although officially it was the longest you've ever run.
Yes.
Yeah, 10 hours.
Still is. Still is the longest I've ever run. 72 Ks, 10 hours.
Alright, well here's to breaking that record this year.
Amen.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll definitely see you out there.
Yep, thank you.
Nice. Thank
See
you.
you later.
Thank you.